Pickle. It's week 7 of the Texas high school football season. 7 weeks in now. 7.
That's crazy.
Almost 2 months. And there are big games across state. I looked this up. There's still non-district games in 6-man football in 1A. Next week there's a big open date on 6-man. You should know that.
Yeah.
But still non-district games. But there are only 3, I believe there's 3 UIL 11-man teams that are playing non-district games this week.
Oh, wow.
Like only 3. It's like Rice, Lyford, I want to say. I tweeted it last night. Anyway, all that is to say, there's big games that matter a lot across the state of Texas this week. And I've put my top 10 into a graphic. Here it is. My top 10 Texas high school football games of the week.
So anticlimactic.
I did. Did I or did I not put them into a graphic?
You did put them in a graphic.
Absolutely. My top 10 Texas high school football games of the week for week 7. Let's start in Galena Park in a top 10 matchup of unbeatens in 6A. Tonight.
Oh, live on Dave Campbell's Texan Live.
As the Galena Park Northshore Mustangs, the number 2 team in the state of Texas, take on the number 10 ranked Humble Summer Creek Bulldogs. And this is, I think last week we talked a lot about the Northshore versus CE King game as like, okay, like we have to talk about it, but we didn't necessarily think CE King was much of a threat. Like we thought that Northshore was a clear favorite. Your mileage may vary on this game. I still think Northshore is a clear favorite in this game, but Summer Creek is not. Summer Creek is a legit top 10 team.
Yes.
It's a legit, like, to me, that speaks only to the gap that we perceive between Northshore and Summer Creek. This is a good Summer Creek team. Their defense has been one of the best in the state this year, allowing just 10 points a game. And then last week, they blew out Humble High, 42-15. Their quarterback, Blake Thomas, has been very good as well. They were up 35-3 in that game and then kind of pulled the emergency brake. Going up against Northshore, and this will be the real test for this for the Summer Creek defense. Going up against a Northshore team that is firing on all cylinders. Quarterback Caleb Bailey, of course, back in the mix. But the big thing about them, and what I'm keeping an eye on in this game, is the first quarter. Northshore is so good about burying you. Like suddenly you look up and it's 17-0, and it's like, okay, this game's over. How does the Summer Creek defense match up with Northshore? This is probably there's one other team state ranked in 21-6A, Atascocita. We're still waiting. So this is kind of ramps up here for Northshore. They played CE King, who I think is probably the 4th best team in that district. Now they're playing Summer Creek, who in my opinion is the 3rd best team in this district, before they get to Atascocita, who I think is the 2nd best team in this district. But a huge game here, and for Summer Creek an opportunity to shake up the state as they go to Galena Park tonight on Dave Campbell's Texan Live. Then let's go east. Friday night in Forney, a top 10 matchup in 5A Division I, as the Forney Jackrabbits at 5-0 take on the number 2 ranked Longview Lobos. Forney, one of the nice surprises in Texas high school football, and their offense has been stupid. 58 points a game. Their offense has been out of control. Running back Javian Osborne has been great. They've got a big-time playmaker in the secondary in Aaron Flowers. He's committed to Oregon. Their quarterback is a gentleman I admire whose name is presently escaping me. But their offense is humming. Jeff Fleener's offense has been fantastic. Now, here's your test. You get Longview in your barn. And there's a Longview team that if the last time you paid attention to them was their season opener against McKinney, you are missing out because this team, I think, has really grown. We know what they've got in the secondary.
Jack Wright.
Thank you. We know what they've got in the secondary. They're Longview with Buda Garrett and Willie Nelson, 2 of the best safeties in the state. We know they've got the running back spot in Taylor Tatum, the OU commit. What has been the real growth for them has been at quarterback. Andrew Tutt has really settled in at quarterback. This is a big test for the Forney defense especially. Can they contain them? And then can Forney's high-flying offense get it rolling against Longview in their barn? Fascinating game there at Citibank Stadium. Probably the biggest game at Citibank Stadium.
Oh, no, Kyle Crawford. I'm sorry.
Kyle Crawford. In quite a while. Then let's go to Texoma land.
Oh, this game rules.
In Gunner. a top 10 matchup of unbeatens as the Gunner Tigers welcome in the Bells Panthers. Thank you. Yes, Bells Panthers. And I kind of view this one in the same way that I view the Northshore Summer Creek game, which is I know who the favorite is.
Yes.
The question is how much, is there a gap, and is that gap closable for Bells, right? Bells has been a really, for Bells, their formula is pretty clear. They want to use that slot T offense and keep the ball away from Gunner. Keep the ball away from the scene. They ran for 400 yards, nearly 400 yards last week against Callisburg. Their offense has been great. Now they take on a Gunner team that has looked every bit the part of the state champion. Walker Overman has really grown in the role, and their defense is playing really well. Gunner's the favorite. It would be an upset if Bells won this game. It is not outside the realm of possibility for Bells to pull the stunner, but it would be a stunner in my mind.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head. The same characteristic that this has with the North Shore Summer Creek game is the fact that Gunner is so used to coming out and absolutely burying people. And that's what we talked about it with Davis Baker from K10 News out there last week on WTF. And he basically said the same thing. It's like you're going to be able to tell a lot at the end of the first quarter, maybe even halfway through the second in this one. Yes,
I think you're exactly right. So keep an eye on that one. Gunner and Bells going down tomorrow night in Gunner. Then let's go down to Leander. As Leander Rouse welcomes in number 10 and unbeaten Belton in a District 11 5A Division II matchup.
Live on Dave Campbell's Texan Live.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And I am really intrigued by this game because, like, Belton stay ranked and undefeated and looking good. But I think this is a huge, huge, huge test for them going up against this Rouse team, whose team, they've got the one loss on the year. They lost their opener to Lake Belton, 34-10. But since then, they have been nails, and they're growing up in a big way. I think this quarterback, London Morgan, has been very good. They got a strong running game in Justin Cannon, and they've got a couple of weapons on the outside, like Noah Fabila and Keller Rogers on the outside. Their defense has been better of late, and that's going to be important for them taking on a Belton team that, as we mentioned, unbeaten, state-ranked, no notes, but are they tested? That's a real question for them. Are they tested? And they're going to need to find something going, especially, I think, where they are really dangerous is when they let their quarterback, Reese Rumfield, who's been such a great dual threat, when they really let him cook and they give him time. A lot of this comes down to the Leander Rouse front getting pressure on Rumfield and making him do what he doesn't want to do, whether it's throw or pass. Make sure he's uncomfortable. Fascinating game. Really interested in this game. Really, really interested. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on Texan Live. Then, let's go to Tomball ISD Stadium as the number 19 ranked Tomball Memorial Wildcats welcoming the Klein Collins Tigers.
Live on Dave Campbell's Texan Live.
And we're going to talk a lot about this with Sam Parker coming up here in just a moment, so I don't want to really go too far into this. But I will say this, that for Tomball Memorial, here's your big test. They're 5-0. They've looked great. This 6-0 would be even more meaningful. Yes. This is a big, because that would put them in the catbird seat to win the district championship. Huge, huge, huge game here in District 15-6A rather. And I am really intrigued to see exactly how this works. Because remember, Klein Collins does have a loss, but it lost to Summer Creek, who I think we've established is pretty darn good. Keep an eye on this one on Dave Campbell's Texan Live. We'll talk with Sam Parker of Tomball Memorial coming up here in a moment. Then let's go down to Yokum, and one of the most dangerous districts in Texas kicks off 12-3A Division I as the number 4 ranked Hitchcock Bulldogs take on the Yokum Bulldogs in a really intriguing matchup. Hitchcock has like we've talked about them, their skill talent there at the 3A Division I level is shocking. Lloyd Jones III, their quarterback, Kelshawn Johnson, Damian McDaniel, they're loaded. They're loaded, and they've looked loaded. Here is a Yokum team that is going to test them in a different way. They're going to test them physically because it's a Yokum team that grinds you out. Their quarterback, Zach Taylor, an Army commit, I think he's really been the like the catalyst for this Yokum kind of revolution at 4-2. They're coming off a tough loss at Waco La Vega. Can they bounce back in a game that matters against Hitchcock? Can Yokum control the big playability of Hitchcock? Can Hitchcock match up front? That's the real question in this one. Big-time game. One of a couple of big games in that district, too, because Columbus plays Hallettsville, and that's another big game. So keep an eye on that one. This one's a little bit off the board, but I'm really intrigued by it. Let's go to Bremond. As the number 4 ranked Chilton Pirates, undefeated on the year at 5-0, take on the Bremond Tigers. And I think that people may be looking at this and say, well, what's the deal? Like Bremond? Bremond's 3-2. Yes, but their losses are to Kearns and to Holland. Holland's undefeated. And Kearns, I think that's a tough loss. That's a bad loss, but I think that they've grown from that. And I think last week, taking on Windthorst and really taking them to the woodshed showed me that Jeff Kozowski's squad, I think, is growing up. One of the questions we had about Bremond coming into the season is that they lost Braylon Wortham. He transferred to Bryan or College Station or A&M Consolidated, somewhere in the Brazos Valley to a bigger school there. They lose Braylon Wortham, and so it's always going to be a work in progress. But they have found an answer in the form of their dual-threat quarterback, Coben Zan, and their sophomore running back, Terrence Scott. They have figured things out offensively, and I think that defense has started to round into form as well. Taking on a Chilton ball club that we mentioned, 5-0, looking good, and their defense has been lights freaking out. Their defense has given up just 35 points all season, 7 points a game in their first 5 games. Now, they're coming off of a nice win over Deweyville, but I think that's really their one meaningful data point, in my opinion. Because the rest of their games, I think that they were the better team. Going on the road to Bremond, a District 13 2A Division II opener, I am really interested in this one. How much has Bremond grown? How much have they grown over the course of the season? Are they ready for prime time? They get an opportunity with a top 5 team coming to town. Keep an eye on that one. Then let's go to Jeff Traylor Stadium in Gilmer, a top 10 matchup in 4A Division II, as the Pleasant Grove Hawks take on the Gilmer Buckeyes in another district opener. And I do appreciate the district scheduling committee, where they're just like 7 4A Division II. Why don't we just get the banger out of the way? It's large bills only in 7 4A Division II. So Pleasant Grove, I think their offense has started to come alive behind Akari Johnson, and their defense has been really, really good the past all year, which is not unexpected. Taking on Gilmer. Gilmer is a fascinating ball club. They are a genuinely intriguing ball club because their offense, unbelievable.
Yep. Will
Henderson, Caden Tennyson, their offense has been great. Their defense is also giving up 50 points a game. So, shore that up. Coming off of an open date, how much have they grown defensively taking on Pleasant Grove? Being at home certainly helps for the Buckeyes, but I'm intrigued by this one, Gilmer and Pleasant Grove. Now, let's go to the Panhandle. Up in the Panhandle in Canadian America, as a game that I do think has lost a little bit of luster recently, but I'm still intrigued by. The number 2 ranked Canadian Wildcats take on the Childress Bobcats in kind of an old rivalry. I guess I don't know if anybody would be offended by me calling it a rivalry, but I would just say that it's a rivalry. Canadian, what's intriguing about this one is I think for Canadian, this is like their second big test. Their first big test was when they played Bushland in week 2 and they beat them by 20. That was their first big test. By the way, still Bushland's only lost of the year. It's a 3A Bushland team. Of course, I'm sorry. Canadian's a 3A team, but 381. Childress is in my opinion, the second best team in this district, District 3, 3A Division II. And they have 2 losses on the year, back-to-back, to Bushland and to Holiday. 2 pretty decent, I would say, games that you would qualify as decent losses. But they figure things out on the defensive side, I think. For the most part, they'll get a big test going up against Cameron Cavalier and this Canadian offense. Intrigued by this one. Canadian's your favorite. Just keep an eye on this one. Don't put this on your main screen. Put this kind of like on the side. And just keep an eye on it because Childress has had a history of giving Canadian a lot of trouble. Keep an eye on that one. Finally, let's go to... There's a couple of 6-man bangers this week.
Yeah, this one's fun, though.
This one is Abbott and Aquila. That's going down Friday night in Abbott. The other one is going down in Cherokee, America, a state-ranked matchup of undefeateds in a state-ranked rivalry game between the Cherokee Indians and the Richland Springs Coyotes. Cherokee is one of the best teams that we're not talking about. Part of it is they've been remarkably dominant all throughout the course of their year. They are, I believe they've 45'd everyone. Let me do some quick math. Yeah, they 45 Menard. So they 45'd everyone. Their defense has given up just 12 points a game. But are they tested? That's the real question. We don't really know too much about them. Their best win is probably that game over Menard, which they won by 45, but, what do you really take from it? Mm-hmm. Going up against Richland Springs, who I would say even more so we don't know a ton about. Now, they have the best win. Their win over Coolidge back in Week 5, I think, is probably the best win overall, but it was a 4-point game. It was back and forth. I have questions about what happens when their defense kind of gets pushed. Mm-hmm. This game is fascinating. There's a lot of emotions in this game because it's a big, old-school six-man rivalry. Keep an eye on this one. Richland Springs and Cherokee, the 1A Division II rankings will certainly get a shakeup here in this District 16 1A Division II opener. So there you have it. And by the way, Richland Springs next week, Rochelle, who is also undefeated. So keep an eye on that district because we're going to have a lot of fun there. But there it is, my top 10 Texas high school football games of the week. You can watch dozens and dozens of Texas high school football games each week on Dave Campbell's Texan Live. And make sure you tune in 7:30 p.m. Friday night on TexanLive.com and on YouTube for free. For Dave Campbell's Texas Football Tonight. The biggest games, the biggest moments, live, free, everywhere.